Hey TSOD fam, welcome back to the TSOD channel. It's your boy Sean, back with another exciting episode. So today is gonna be a little bit different than some of the previous episodes that I've done. We're actually gonna be covering a little bit of firearms related news, all right? I've been hit up by a lot of people just wanting to know what's going on as far as changes, laws, things going on down south of the border, military stuff. So I'm gonna be talking all about that on today's episode. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Stick around right after the intro. Okay guys, so welcome back, all right? It is February 2025 and we're covering a little bit of firearms news, so I'm excited. I actually did, a video like this a few months back and I got some pretty good reviews on it, so I wanted to kind of circle back and touch on a little bit of firearm related news. So as you guys know, I'm located in the great state of California. Yes, I know guys. It is what it is, all right? So I'm here, I gotta abide by the laws. And most importantly, I really have to know what laws are coming down the pipe, what laws are in effect right now to make sure I don't end up in handcuffs by the law. Got it? Okay, so California laws currently, right? So current laws right now that may affect you, may or may not. If you don't live in California, hey, fast forward through this. I'm gonna be covering some national firearms news, some things coming down the pipe, as well as some stuff in the military as well. For all my military folks that subscribe to the channel. And oh, by the way, believe it or not, a ton of my viewers, all right? A ton of my viewers, just like yourself, are actually not subscribed to the channel, guys. So if you could just do me a huge favor, all right? Hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell, hit all notifications, and don't forget to smash that like button so that other viewers just like yourself can catch my videos, all right? So for California, current laws in place right now that may or may not affect you, AB 28, Assembly Bill 28, that is known as the firearms sin tax, all right? You talk about sin, the Bible, so on and so forth. California doesn't really like that you own guns. They don't really, California lawmakers don't really want Californians to own guns, period, all right? That's their ultimate goal, I believe, for the most part, or at least to heavily restrict gun ownership. Anyway, there is a law in effect right now, all right? It's an 11% tax, all right, on all firearms and firearms related items, accessories, so on and so forth. So if you've been to your local gun shop recently and you're like, holy hell, man, firearms are a lot more expensive. And oh, by the way, everything else is super expensive there, not to mention ammo, all right? 11% in California has been tacked on with a Assembly Bill 28 that's been enacted in the law. I think this went into effect last summer, back in maybe July or something like that of 2024. So you're gonna be paying, an extra premium on top of that in that sin tax, okay? Another law that just went into effect is the limiting of one gun purchase per 30 days. Now, there's already been a similar law that's been in effect for a hot minute. I think it was SB 61, Senate Bill 61. So previously, yeah, you couldn't buy a rifle, pistol, more than one in 30 days. Now they've expanded that to private party transactions. So if you're trying to buy a firearm, more than one firearm from a friend or family member or whatever, all right, technically you're gonna be breaking the law now with that. So you can only do one firearm sale per 30 days for private party transaction. According to Assembly Bill 1483, all right? So just be aware of that, guys, especially when you have friends and family that you're trying to sell a firearm to. Next one up is Assembly Bill 1598 or 1598. Basically requires firearms dealers to provide some sort of, pamphlet, documentation, brochure, or whatever to gun purchasers on basically the safety considerations and or hazards of owning a firearm. Now, for me personally, I don't really see a huge big deal with that, other than especially if you're a first-time firearms purchaser, just to get you aware of some of the things that come along with that, such as the hazards, so on and so forth. I think it should be, optional, voluntary, but I don't really see a huge issue with that other than those firearms dealers not having to pay out of pocket for those specific brochures or those pamphlets for those first-time firearm buyers. All right, so that's Assembly Bill 1598. That has been signed into law. It's been enacted. So expect to see that. I don't know if it pertains. I think it pertains to all firearms as you buy them. I don't know if it's a simple one sheet document that dealer or that firearm, that gun shop prints out. I don't know if it's like a folded pamphlet. I haven't really seen it. All right, so that is that. Expect that. Assembly Bill 2917. All right, 2917. This one is something that definitely for my California folks to be concerned about, because this law that has been passed and it's been enacted gives the courts kind of expanded authority to, when it comes to restraining orders, to seize your firearms, seize your ammunition when it comes to, hate-based language, all right? So anything that is deemed hateful or whatever, and you end up getting a restraining order against you, that court can 100% order you to relinquish or give up your firearms, temporarily, whatever, as well as the ammunition. Now, before that was primarily, or the law was in place primarily for domestic violence and things like that, and or violent, a history of violent criminal behavior. You can see that now somebody can basically say, you know what, this person said something hateful to me. They can go to a court and they can put in a restraining order, and oh, by the way, you lose your guns, all right? So that is definitely something to just be aware of when it comes to that, if you find yourself involved in that type of situation, okay? Now, some proposed laws, some laws that may be coming down the pipe pretty soon, all right? They're at least through the, they've been introduced. They haven't necessarily been voted on and voted into law yet, but you got Assembly Bill 824, right? 824, that again kind of expands the authorities that courts have when it comes to things like protective orders, to be able to seize, again, your firearms, ammunition. So it expands the authority for the courts for any type of protective order to basically have you give up your firearms. So again, when you find yourself, hopefully not, but involved with the law, just understand everything that can come with you when it comes to firearms ownership. All right, moving on up for the next one that's proposed, may come down the pipe here, is Assembly Bill 1344, 1344. Again, it's another one pertaining to gun violence, restraining orders, things like that. I haven't really seen a whole lot of the details on that specific bill that's down there, but expected to, again, give courts, local jurisdiction, local law enforcement expanded powers to snatch up your guns in the event you get mixed up in that. So I just want you guys to be aware that I'm not like fear mongering, but these are things that California lawmakers are, they're pushing for. And if they get it, again, that's just going to give them easier access, give them an easier ability to basically pull your guns for just about any reason. All right, another proposed law is Senate Bill 53, all right? This is the one that pretty much all Californians that, love the Second Amendment and they own firearms, this is the one that you definitely want to pay attention to. SB 53, that is the firearm storage requirement law that they are really pushing to get out there. I don't know if it necessarily been enacted into law. I think they're trying to get this to go into effect, I believe, January of next year, January of 2026. And this would require you to have your firearms locked up in your home at all times, just about, unless you were, to my knowledge, unless you were physically handling it, cleaning it, whatever, in your possession, it needs to be in a locked container, whether that's a gun vault for a pistol, whether that's a safe for a rifle or something, it needs to be locked away. I don't know if like a trigger lock or a cable lock going through the magazine well or something like that will suffice, but it has to be under lock and key when you're not physically touching that weapon. That is the law that is coming down the pipe. So if you're, that individual, now this doesn't even pertain if you have kids or not, just period. right? In your home, you have to have your weapon locked up if you're not physically handling it. That is some of the basic language from the law, all right? So SB 53, keep an eye out for that one, especially if you're the type that keeps that pistol on the nightstand just in case something goes crazy in the middle of the night. So those are some of the laws that are currently in effect for California as well as proposed, all right? So now let's talk about national firearms news now. All right, President Trump, he got in there, sworn in January, and on February 7th, he signed an executive order that basically directed the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who's in there, to basically take a look at any current firearms law or regulations and things that are put into place right now to see whether or not any of them are overreaching and go beyond like the intent and scope that they were initially implemented, such as a previous executive order, could be from whoever, Biden, Obama, whatever, to see about, getting rid of some of those regulations that overreach in terms of the Second Amendment. So President Trump signed that executive order. Pam Bondi and her crew are looking at it, with a microscope, hopefully, or at least a magnifying glass, and they've got 30 days to review it and recommend regulations and things that you overstep the boundaries when it comes to the Second Amendment, and hopefully to basically repeal and get rid of those things, all right? So that's a big, big win for the 2A community. It went into effect, or that EO went into effect on February 7th. So hopefully by March 7th or around that time, we'll know a little bit more about what that actually means for us as law-abiding gun owners. There's another thing that coming down the pipe. There's a national CCW, concealed carry weapons permit reciprocity law that several lawmakers have introduced, and they're trying to get it across the goal line. It's being headed up by guys like Chuck Grassley, representative, as well as Senator Ted Cruz, all right? So, and as well as others, Tom Tillis, they're pushing that. Now, what that would mean is that if you have a concealed carry weapons permit from one state, that means it would be good for all 50 states, all right? Doesn't matter that, you have a Florida CCW, and by the way, it's not good in California, or Florida doesn't recognize California and and vice versa. So it'd be good across all states. So that's one of the main ones that I'm really, really excited about. I'm looking forward to, and I hope it actually gets across the goal line, especially with this new Republican administration. It's probably the best chance that we've had for a national, CCW reciprocity law in a long, long time. So we'll see where that goes. I don't know the number or the name of whatever bill it is, but just keep an eye on that one. Okay. So there's also another one that's a little bit controversial, but some of you actually may agree with this one, and that is a bill introduced by Representatives Eric Burleson and Lauren Boebert, all right? They introduced a bill to abolish the ATF, all right? That's a Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Many people, feel as if the creation of the ATF overstepped its boundary way back when. Now, I know several guys that work at ATF, and they're really, really awesome guys. They love their job and they do some really good work. And then there's also the other side, or the other argument that, hey, local law enforcement already does a lot of that stuff, the enforcement of, firearms primarily, not really tobacco much anymore, not necessarily alcohol, but mostly firearms and explosives. So there's two sides to the coin. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Do you think that, the ATF should either be revamped or just gutted and, abolished altogether, all right? For me personally, I think the ATF does some really good things, but at the same time, local law enforcement could do many of those things just as well if they had the funding and the training to be able to do it, all right? Let me know in the comment section below. So that may be coming down the pipe. I don't know how, where that's gonna go. What I do know is this week, all right? This week, actually yesterday, President Trump actually tapped his FBI director, Kash Patel, all right, who is a 2A guy, to actually dual head or be the head or at least the acting director of the ATF. Now, President Trump has not established a ATF director yet. He's having Kash Patel do both jobs. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that, hey, since he hasn't tapped someone to be the director of the ATF, that he plans to get rid of it? There's been calls, there's been talks, whispers about that. I have no idea, but I'm definitely gonna be keeping an eye on that one specifically. Okay, so that kind of covers it for national news. Let's talk a little bit about military news now. All right, so big shakeup this past weekend in the Pentagon specifically. Hey, SecDef Hegseth, he got in there. Obviously, President Trump 2.0 in his second administration. He's shaking things up in there, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is, he's basically giving people their papers, all right? So the current, or the previous chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, CQ Brown, General Brown, he is out, all right? There was some talks and rumors about it a couple days ago that he might be on his way out. And sure enough, this past weekend, General CQ Brown is out. President Trump, or SecDef Hegseth, I'm not really sure who it was, appointed a new general. I believe he was actually in retirement, a 3-star, brought him back on active duty. And this is a general that led the SOCOM community back in like the 2016 to 2019, 2020 timeframe. So a lot of special operations experience, especially in the ISIS, taking on of ISIS, Mosul, Iraq timeframe. He was instrumental in actually leading the charge and pretty much eradicating ISIS during that timeframe. So President Trump brought him back on and made him the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now, that role primarily, if you don't know, in military circles, it's not really a leader of the service branch. It's not a service branch head or the top officer. He's more of the, not necessarily ceremonial, but he's more of that kind of liaison with a lot of the lawmakers, and he sits at the Pentagon, talks with a lot of the heads of the services through the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, so on and so forth. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see if there's any sort of other big shakeups. Also, on top of that, President Trump basically got rid of some of the judge advocate generals for some of the other services, I believe, such as the Air Force and the Army. Now, this isn't like a new process. Basically, every time that a new president comes in, they start to shake things up when it comes to the military brass and the Pentagon. So I expect to see other moves, other changes come about in personnel in the Pentagon going forward. We'll see how it goes. All right. So that's one of the big things, is a big shakeup this past weekend in terms of the Pentagon and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as well as other senior officers. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna talk about is another big one, especially on the military side of the house. We know that Trump has pushed a lot of active duty and National Guards soldiers, airmen, Marines down to the border to secure it. But on top of that, one of the big things this past week is that Trump actually designated the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, all right? So if you don't know what that means, that has a huge significance, all right, in terms of combating those groups, all right? Now, what typically happens when the president designates a group as a foreign terrorist organization, now both the military and the intelligence community have greater powers to be able to actually target those groups, all right? Using, the military, using the 3-letter agencies, and they can really work together to really focus in on those groups and completely decimate them. So this is huge. This is huge. Cartels such as MS-13, the Sinaloa cartel, and many others, Tren de Aragua, they are all on that FTO list. So man, the clock is ticking, and if you haven't seen it on social media, there's a lot of flights, a lot of intelligence and surveillance flights in and around the border, down on the Mexico border. So it's on. So what we could potentially see is, we're already starting to see U.S. military aircraft flying in and around the border, all right, conducting surveillance missions. We could see U.S. troops down in and around the southern border, doing things, doing exercises, as well as gathering intelligence. Now, President Trump on the campaign trail before he got in, he also mentioned big time that he wants to see SOF, all right? He wants to see special operations guys and gals down there, taking it to the cartels for a lot of the illicit drugs, the human trafficking, and so on and so forth, going down there at the southern border. So that is huge, them being designated as foreign terrorist organizations. We'll see what happens in the future, but I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that. All right, the last thing I wanted to cover for today's kind of news update is we just kind of heard as of the last couple days that the defense budget, that thing is gonna get cut over the next 5 years pretty significantly, all right? We're looking at a 40% cut in the DoD budget, or at least planned over the next 5 years. Starting with this year, 8%, all right? 8% all the way for the next 5 years. DoD budget getting cut, it's slashed, all right? So what is that actually gonna mean for the military, our military members out there looking to do training, looking for new equipment, and so on and so forth? Hey, I think personally, especially being military, is that it's going to be a whole lot of more with less. All right, so I don't know. 8%. That's 8% of the DoD that they were expecting to buy new planes, buy new equipment, buy new weapons, conduct training exercises with other partners. So we'll see, what the effects are of these cuts are. We probably won't see them right away, but I know the heads of the different service branches, they've got about 30 days to come up with a plan of how they're gonna make these cuts, and they gotta pretty much start implementing these things right away, all right? So anyway, that's all I got for you on this firearms and military related news update. Appreciate you guys tuning in here on the TSOD channel for basically news, how-tos, and reviews, anything firearms and as well as military related. Don't forget to smash that like button, all right? Don't forget to share this video with a friend or family member. And oh, by the way, don't forget to check out the sweet TSOD merch over at tsodshop.com. You can get these sweet t-shirts, tank tops, beanies, hoodies, so much more over at tsodshop.com. Please help me out and don't forget to subscribe, guys. All right, I will catch you guys on the next episode of the TSOD channel, and I will see you again soon. Peace.